Hey, welcome back to Max Nave Horsemanship again today. Today we're going to do something that's a little closer to that of a demo. And it's something you've probably seen other people doing it. But I'm going to explain why we're doing it, because it's a little bit above and beyond the obvious. So just give me a second. I'm going to get a horse, put a halter on it, and I'm going to show you some things. Okay, first off, I am going to demonstrate something that you've probably seen other people doing. But chances are they didn't really explain what they were doing, or maybe they didn't even know what they were doing or why they were doing it. But what you will frequently see, you'll see people throwing a rope over the horse's back. And, well, I just did this off camera for the first time with this guy, and I was actually kind of surprised how little of a reaction we got. He's already figured out that when I do things, they're not meant to hurt them. Not a problem at all. Now, like I said, this is something you're going to see a lot of people doing. Throwing a rope over the back. And you got to do it from both sides. Everything has to be done from both sides. Now, this serves several purposes, actually. Now, one is basic desensitizing to ropes, things flying around. And I don't care if I hit them. I can hit him just about anywhere I want with this rope and get very little reaction. He flinches just a tiny bit, but overall, very, very good. And why do we do this? Well, aside from the obvious, it gets them used to ropes, which there's always going to be ropes around horses, whether it's your lead rope or if you're roping cattle or whatever you're doing. You know, there's going to be ropes, guaranteed. Always going to be ropes. But it's not just about the rope. And this is preparation for future things. Things on his back, odd things, unusual things. And this is step one of several before you ride the horse. And, well, if you can't do this, you're never going to get a saddle pad on your horse. If you can't get the saddle pad on, you're not going to get a saddle on. If you can't get the saddle on, you're probably not going to get a rider on. And at that point, you wouldn't want to be getting on. But this is step one. Now I'm going to progress to step two because he's doing so good at this. I think maybe I'm going to take a chance and see what happens with a saddle pad. Hang on, I'm going to go get one. Now what I've got here, well, it's not exactly a pad, it's a blanket. It's what I use under one of my saddles. But I just thought, well, it was handy and seemed to be a good tool for the job because if he was a little concerned about it, I could fold this thing up a lot smaller so that it doesn't bother him too much. But since he doesn't seem to be too concerned about it, I think I'm going to give a try. Touch him with it. Well, you can see him twitching a little because something's touching him, which is a perfectly normal reaction. But let's open it up a little more and see what happens. Holy smokes. I wasn't expecting that at all. Okay, he's looking at me. He's looking around to see. That's it. That's all he did. Took a look to see what was going on, and that was all he did. But that's the purpose of the rope. Now I'm just going to open it up all the way. I'm going to throw it on his back as if I was putting a saddle on. Now we do this politely, as usual. There we go. Well, how about that? So when you see somebody throwing a rope over the horse, well, this is what they're working up to. Things on their back, like the saddle pad. The next step after this would be the saddle. And before we get to that, we'll probably desensitize them to a few other things as well. But I just wanted to show you a practical application of something that you'll see a lot of people do and why they do it. It's not just about the rope. It's about other things going on their back and other things that might be flying around, whether it's the tie strings on your saddle or the tie strings on your hoodie or your coat or any of that stuff. So, when you're doing desensitizing, I did a few videos on this, and I said it's not about the individual things you're using, it's what they lead up to, and it's about all the things that are similar. Again, the rope isn't just about ropes. It's about everything that goes on the horse's back. Well, now we've got a rope and a saddle pad, and he's still not reacting. But don't be fooled by that either, by the way. One thing you want to do and it can be very telling when you're desensitizing in any way, shape, or form, is you want the horse to move with the thing. And it's a little windy today, so I'm scared the wind might catch it and blow it away on me, but we're going to give it a try, and we're going to actually have him move with this thing sitting on his back to see if he's okay with it. I'm just going to double check. I think it has to go back the other way a little bit. Oh no, he's just standing crooked because he's relaxed. Perfect. That's a good sign, actually. But a horse that just, a lot of people think when they do something like this that, oh, the horse is okay with it. Well, it can be misleading because it could actually be an indication of a shutdown horse, because sometimes you've heard the flight or fight. Well, there's a third component that occasionally happens too, and it's freeze. And sometimes if they get really scared about something, like when you put a saddle on, the horse will actually just freeze in the one spot, and it won't react at all, and people think the horse is really good with it, but they've never actually tried making the horse move. And you know, once they actually start making the horse move, all of a sudden they get a heck of a reaction. So we're just going to have them walk around a little bit with this on and see what happens. Well, so far so good. He actually seems to be pretty cool with it. Excellent. Well, that went far better than I expected, but still served the purpose of explaining to you what we're doing and why we're doing it, because I want you to understand why you see people throwing ropes over the back all the time on green horses, horses that haven't been ridden yet. And a lot of people refer to that as a started under saddle, if it's been ridden, or a horse that's been backed. I never understood that one. It made no sense to me, because I teach it to back up long before I ever ride it. It took me years to figure out what the heck they meant when they said the horse has been backed. Depends what country you live in. That's a common term that they use to describe a horse that's been started. And, well, started, that can be confusing too, because started where? Started under saddle, or started with training in general? He's been started. I've started him, but I haven't been on him. So he hasn't been started under saddle. You know, another term that's common is broke. Well, I don't like a broken horse. I don't want to have to fix it. So I don't even like that term. So I prefer to use terms that make perfect sense to you, that you understand if you've never been around a horse. If it's been started under saddle, I'll say it's been started under saddle. We've ridden the horse, or we've been doing groundwork with the horse. Things that make sense. We don't use terms that you just don't get. But anyhow, just wanted to show you that one. A real life example of what you can accomplish in a very short period of time. And like I said before, I think his owner may have been misinformed when they were told he had 30 days of training. I'm not sure he's had any at all, but they've been doing a little bit with him, leading him around and stuff like that. So he's gotten used to the halter and humans and that sort of thing. So that really helps. And just prior to doing this, I also did a little brushing. And normally I don't give a crap about brushing, because unless I'm putting a saddle on, it's a total waste of time, because if you brush your horse, it's going to immediately go roll in the mud. They do that. And even if I'm riding the horse, I'm only going to brush off the area where the saddle and cinch or girth or whatever you want to call it goes, just to make sure it's comfortable for the horse, and so we don't turn its back into a mud puddle when he starts sweating. And if there's any aggregates in the mud, you know, that might be a little irritating if there's some gravel in there or something. So you want to make sure you get rid of all that stuff before you throw a blanket and saddle on, or a pad and saddle, whatever you're using. So, but in his case, we did a little brushing with him. Not that I cared about getting him clean. I just wanted him to get used to being handled all over. At first, he didn't really want to stand still for that. He kept moving away. He very shortly figured out that wasn't such a bad deal, and he was quite happy to just totally stand still at liberty while I brushed him. And that kind of worked up. You know, that was like, well, I said that throwing the rope on was step one. Actually, step one comes even before that, because I actually got him used to being handled all over, so that when we did start throwing this rope over him, that wasn't such a big deal. And then once we threw the rope over, well, putting a saddle pad, or well, in this case a blanket on, wasn't a huge deal. And well, that's what I wanted to show you. Have a good day.